Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Pestrogen Podcast with Jenny and Jerusha.
Hi guys, welcome back to Pestrogen episode, what are we at, 5 now? I am one of your hosts, Jerusha. Today we're going to be talking to Jennifer from Buckeye Bedbug Detection. And we are calling tonight's episode Snifferiffic. And cannot wait to talk to her. But first, welcome my co-host, Jenny. Jenny, what was your week? How did your week go?
Hey, it went very well. Very long work days. February being a short month, and then us getting off early that day to do Beauties and Beasties. Like, I wouldn't trade that for the world. That was a really fun experience. But
kicked
holy
our asses,
goodness gracious, yeah. The end of my month was insane. I think I did like 4 back-to-back 12-plus hour shifts just to catch up, and yeah. So the end of February really sucks. But then today we did my daughter's 8th birthday party. So that was a lot of fun.
Sweet. You know? How did that go? Good turnout?
It went good. Yeah, we did laser tag and did like an inside arcade type deal thing. So that was a lot of fun. I got to be mom for a day. I love Sundays. Sundays are great.
When you know that you for sure don't have to work and it's just kiddos.
Yes, everything kiddo related that's super important gets planned for a Sunday.
That's the best way to go.
Yes.
Yeah, my week was the same. That Friday, for me, it was at 12 o'clock, which getting home and sitting down at 12 o'clock, I had to do a bunch of stops in the morning, come home for the podcast, and then I had to go back and do a couple more stops. So that kicked my ass. And then I ended up having to work a Saturday to stay on top of everything. And I didn't think about the fact I worked last Saturday without thinking about how I work the first Saturday of every month. So I worked last Saturday and this Saturday, which kicked my ass. I made them like shorter days. We don't go crazy on Saturdays, but still it sucks not getting a full weekend to yourself. So yeah, I'm definitely with you. I'm pretty beat. I'm glad February is finally over.
Yeah.
For being such a short month, it feels so freaking long.
Yeah. That's the way it worked out for me, is that my worst day at the end of the month bumped into my worst day in the first of the month. And it normally doesn't do that.
Yeah.
So it's like I wear like a step counter, and I think the last day of the month I did like a 18,000 step day, and then the next one it was like about the same. I was just like, oh, I usually have a couple days of break in between like recover each other. And then yes.
Yeah, it's brutal.
But speaking of brutal, do you know who I miss like a lot?
Jack and Brad.
Tales from a Crawl Space, man. Yeah, and speaking of one of those long Saturdays, I always have a Tales from the Crawl Space, and it was absolutely treacherous.
Oh, and you didn't have anything to listen to.
Yeah. I sent something to both of them and gave them crap. But when I gave them crap, they sent us back a clip to share with everybody. So
let's hear what they're up to.
Man, this beach vacation has been awesome. Fucking shame it's almost over.
Yeah, man, it's been awesome. I think I sunburned my penis, though. Would you pass me a beer?
Hey, sure, man, but your voice sounds like shit, man. What the fuck happened?
Oh, man, I blew my voice out screaming at the wet t-shirt contest last night.
Damn. Yeah, that sucked. I was kind of pissed off I only came in second.
Well, man, you were up against a Dolly Parton impersonator. It's kind of hard to beat.
Yeah, in a Red Hot Chili Pepper t-shirt, too.
Yeah. Here comes the water.
Shit. But, oh well. Guess we better get ready to pack our shit and head home. We do have a show to do on March 7th with a special guest.
Oh, yeah, we do. But I'm sure glad Jenny and Jerusha have been holding it down with the Pestrogen Podcast.
They're pretty damn awesome. I mean, I'm telling you what, you're damn right. Insert compliment to the ladies here. Oh, wait, I wasn't supposed to read that part.
Definitely. Let's get our shit together and bug off.
Fuck off.
Those nerds.
That was cute.
That was cute. March 7th. Be ready for Tales from the Crawl Space from those nerds.
But keep listening to us, please, because
yeah, please, right.
we need an audience too.
Exactly. We're funny too sometimes. But
We try.
without further ado, I think we should introduce our guest.
Yes, please.
Yes, Jennifer, welcome to the show. Thank you so much. We are thrilled and super excited to talk to you today. How are you?
Thank you. I'm so good. My voice is a little extra scratchy. I always sound like a pack-a-day smoker, even though I'm not. But so excuse
I don't think
any
so at
coughs.
all.
Oh, well, you're kind. But hello from, Beagleville and the bedbug queen of Ohio, I guess.
Woo woo. Yeah.
Speaking of, do you want to kind of tell us a little bit about yourself? Where are you from? Kind of what your background is in the industry and kind of where you're at now with that?
Sure. Right after 9/11, I got laid off from my cushy sales job, and I was looking for something that was recession proof. And I interviewed with a medium-sized regional company. I really was, I liked the people I interviewed with, and I started, so I guess it was early 2002. And I stayed there for about a dozen years, saw the rise of bed bugs in Ohio and the United States in general. In 2010, we decided to take a leap and invest in Oliver. Ollie was the first bedbug dog in Ohio, and he was a little tricolored beagle with a big attitude. We knew nothing. I can't believe that. I mean, every day it was like, okay, we just spent $10,000 on this dog. Let's bring him home and try not to ruin him. And somehow he was awesome enough that he carried us through and taught us a lot. And since then, I left the company that I worked for, went out on my own completely, and have gone through a number of dogs. We've had Ollie, we've had Hank, we've had Copper, Duncan and Panera, and of course Coco. All of them are beagles except for Coco. Coco is a German Shorthair Pointer that lives with one of my handlers. Ollie has passed, Hank has passed, so we just have 3 beagles right now. But if you're our neighbors, you probably don't think it's just 3 beagles. You probably think it's 15 dogs over here.
Oh, that's adorable.
So cute. So you left the company. How long have you been on your own?
I've been on my own since 2014.
Okay. Wow.
I think that's right. Right in that range, yes.
Okay.
It gets a little fuzzy because, you're kind of doing it and then you're like, when did I completely quit?
Yeah, you're so in the thick of it.
Yeah. And then, for the first few years, I was single mom doing, 3 kids, doing this thing and answering the phone in the middle of I'd answer the phone anytime and every time just to try to make things happen. And even though I was a licensed exterminator, I'd always had my license from the very beginning. That was a requisite with when I got hired at the initial company. And I maintained that. It was me by myself or me and a handler. And it was really a big roadblock for me to get over to think of doing treatments by myself other than, to treat like a library we inspected or something like that. It was hard to think about flipping furniture and doing all of those things. So I really avoided doing the whole pest control portion for a number of years. And then 2020 changed that. And now I have my 2 adult daughters that work with me. and I have 2 part-time people also that are all female, and we're out there killing it.
That's awesome.
cool.
So you do a little bit of everything pest control wise, or are you just inspections?
We do a little bit of everything pest control wise, not
Okay.
termites, not animal control, but roaches,
Mhm.
bed bugs, spiders, oh my, yeah, all of those things.
So like the general stuff, none of the
Correct.
the big scary stuff.
Right. And then we've diversified a little bit more where, and this is either people will love it or hate it. We do a lot of prep. We go into the homes of the elderly and help them get ready for extermination, whether we're doing the extermination or not. And we've done a few hoarding cleanouts too, which is, especially the ones with bugs. Woo!
That's got to be really
That's
tough.
been a wild ride.
Yeah,
But
scary.
if anyone
But
has
that's-
OCD and they want to come and learn how to do that, and they want to really come and spend some time in Ohio, come on over. We'll teach you how to do a hoarding clean out, and you can go home exhausted and have had a wonderful day helping people.
I bet that has to be very rewarding, but yeah, very physically demanding, I would think. Because I've been in a hoarding place, I've never had to clean it out. That I feel like would be, I don't even know where you would start.
Well, the first couple times we didn't really understand what the plan was, and we've invested in a dump trailer, and all of the things, all the Tyvek, all of the things to get things done. And then the poor beagles have to stay home on those days because there's just no place for them. So they'll get a little extra vacay, extra treat. Yeah.
How did you get into that? Was that just kind of a natural progression from what you were already doing? Are there other? I've never heard of a company that does the prep work. I think that's
there are not
amazing because I go to so many bed bug places where it is like a senior person, or I once had a guy that had a stroke and we were just fighting and fighting and fighting to get him to do his prep work. How did you start offering that?
I got a notification that this one local agency was having a bid for it was pest control in general, but I thought, well, that's awesome. They have a big call center. They have a lot of employees. Maybe the dogs can get some work. And so I went through the whole bid process, and once we made it into, like, they just chose a number of vendors. So like 3 of us made the cut. They started sending us jobs with the elderly in the county. And I was like, oh, okay, we're going in to treat these homes. They listed me as an exterminator. And so at that point in time, that kind of initiated me bringing on my first daughter. We went into a couple of jobs, and I was like, wait, this is an apartment building. Surely I can't exterminate here because they already have one, right? The property management is responsible for that. And oh, there's my cat. And sorry, everyone, I had a cat just come up and molest me and is now sitting on my left shoulder. So they'd say, no, she actually needs help with prep because the exterminator can't do their job. They keep refusing service. She was not physically or mentally able to do any of the laundry and just get everything ready. It's so much work. So after that first job, we were like, wow, my daughter Morgan came to work with me that day, and it was disgusting and stinky and messy and hard. And at the end of the day, the little old lady came in, and she started crying when she saw how her apartment was clean, and we had thrown away the furniture she wanted out. And Morgan looked at me and said, I could do this every day. And so we've been trying to build it ever since.
That is so cute.
Cool. Yeah.
I love watching those professional organizers and all the hoarding shows and stuff. And I've always thought about how cool it would be to add that service to, because I do a lot of cockroach work, and a lot of it is a lot of hoarding. But I've always thought about like there's like actual certifications and stuff you can get as like a professional organizer or whatever. I thought that would be so cool.
And it's a really simple thing that a lot of pest control companies could do, but so much of it is route based that it's disruptive to a route or disruptive to the flow of business. And so it just doesn't work for a lot of established companies.
Right.
It's we have a lot of
or the
flexibility
hourly
in the
rate
canine
can
work.
be the hourly rate for pest control people can be just outrageous what a company generally charges. That I feel like adding the cleaning aspect of it, people wouldn't be able to necessarily afford to pay most companies that kind of money to make it worth their while.
And they can't, and so typically it ends up being individuals that are on some type of assistance where there's a program in place to help with that.
Sure.
And what a blessing to those people.
Yeah.
Because they might face eviction or they're ostracized from their family because they can't get rid of these pests, and so no one wants to get bed bugs or roaches by visiting their elderly mother, father, whatever it is. And so it's really hard on the whole family. And many times when we go in and we put in the legwork and we put in, all the work, doing the treatments, doing the prep, throwing things away, and it might take some time. It might take 3 or 4 or sometimes way more visits. And eventually we get it under control. We can talk to their kids. We can tell them, hey, it's resolved. And it's so rewarding. It's like you get the social work component, but you get to make a living doing it.
That's so cool.
But it is very costly for an individual to have to shoulder that.
Oh yeah, I bet.
Yeah. What an incredible thing to offer, though. I've always thought about that too, like because I'm always on the other end of it, of people that I have a customer right now that we did a bed bug treatment, and they'd been dealing with them for almost a year, and they were dealing with it before I even came on, and previous management wasn't reporting it. We tried to treat them once and showed up and they hadn't done anything prep wise, so we couldn't treat it. And then their office just kind of let it drop, just stopped even trying to do anything. And so I just didn't hear anything about it for months. And then management changed and was like, we need to get this figured out. So we did a full I kind of had the same issue again, like the prep work, but it's a husband and wife. They had a daughter living there. The daughter wouldn't admit that there were bed bugs or that there was an issue, and kept trying to find ways, like workarounds. Like she wanted to put all of her stuff in a storage unit, and she's like, well, they can live for a year. So without feeding. So if I just leave all my stuff in a storage unit for a year, then I'll be fine. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. That's not how any of this works. So, and then they couldn't prep. The wife is, she's got some issues. The husband has cancer. I think he had COVID at one point in the middle of trying to prep for bed bugs. And so I was treating, and I kept kind of saying, you guys, I really don't think that the prep was done the way that it needs to be. And the office thinks they did all of the prep work. And so I treated, we were free of bed bugs, and then they start unpacking their stuff and we have bed bugs again. And still the office, none of them will listen to me when I say, no guys, the prep, like, I don't think that and then they're like, well, the daughter moved out and she's coming and going. And I'm like, well, right. But they've also just started unpacking all of these bags that they supposedly prepped correctly, and all of a sudden there's live bed bugs in their bedroom. Likely they didn't prep correctly. So now we're starting from scratch, treating them again. And I would just love to be able to get in there and help with the prep and make sure that the prep is being done correctly, because they've been living with these. I think the first time they reported them was last July, I think is what I heard, maybe even longer than that. And I want so desperately for them to just be done dealing with this. But if they're, putting all their belongings full of bed bugs into garbage bags, and then taking them out after I've treated, unfortunately, there's just nothing I can do but keep treating. And I'm just kind of at my wit's end with it, because we don't have any programs like that I know of that would go in and help them get ready. And I wish that was an option for them.
Right. Well, because then you feel like it's a reflection on you that you're not getting control of the situation too.
Right.
Right. Even if the property manager really knows, it's not job security to keep coming back because there are more bugs. Oh, yay! We have more work to do. There are bugs still. That's not good.
Yeah, I'd like to just be done with the bugs and move on to other things. Yeah. But unfortunately, I'm just going to have to keep going until we figure something out.
Yeah. Do you have a recommendation for people, maybe all over the states, of ways that they could reach out to organizations that would help the elderly in that way? Do you know,
So some of the larger metropolitan areas have agency on aging. It'd be like, whether it's, Central Michigan Agency on Aging or Detroit area or whatever it is. And the larger cities and municipalities seem to have more money available. And then, and where we are, it's considered, it's usually tied together with the home repairs division, because it's like, they do have funds available for people who need a new furnace or furnace repair or a handrail or something like that, or water leak fixed. But when the home repair person goes there and finds that the home is infested, then they're required to do something to protect the next contractor. So then it gets referred to one of us. We go through the process, unfortunately, which could take a month or two, and they're still going without the furnace or without the water until we get it resolved. And then they're able to get approved for the actual home repair that needs to take place. Some in Ohio, there can be other agencies through Medicaid also that provide services for the elderly or people that qualify. Like one of them is called Passport. I think Passport can help provide certain things. You've all been in an apartment community where there's bed bugs, and the person gets a new lift chair and Passport provided it or something like that. Similar to that, where they can actually help with prep or extermination for only certain clients. I can't seem to figure out who qualifies for it, but some people do.
Okay.
Interesting.
That's interesting. Yeah.
You know what? And actually, community action, I don't know if they have that in Colorado. They have that in Ohio and some other areas. Community action, some of them have funding. So, like one of the local ones here had a wait list, and they were doing bed bug heat treatments on their own.
Wow.
And then I think they actually started paying some other exterminators to do it. But the prep is still a challenge. At least they're providing funds and treatments to help people get their resources and get their cleaning services or their healthcare back on that might have been taken offline because of the pest. But those are the main ones that I'm aware of.
Interesting. I'll have to look into that and see what's available around here. There's got to be something to help people out.
Yeah,
I would think so.
You'd hope, yeah.
Right. I have a huge, enormous apartment complex that is like a 55 plus, but it's not assisted living. But the sweet landlord lady, I love her, but she's dealing with a lot of where she's like, you need to clean your place up, and but they're elderly, and she's like, oh my gosh, so maybe I'll have to investigate in that and try to help with that. That's really neat. I love it.
Yeah, a lot of the buildings that are 55 and up, they will have a case manager that works at the building, and she might be spread between 2 or 3 different locations. But that case manager, usually they are tasked with trying to get everyone in the building to sign up for everything they can qualify for.
Oh,
and then so that case manager might work for one of the agency on agents, or might work for independent. I don't know. It just depends. But that would be the connector that makes everything happen, is that case manager knowing that the service is available, or getting the people qualified for a service.
That's awesome. Good to know. Cool.
I knew that we were talking about bedbug dogs and that this would go down this huge rabbit hole because there's such a big void. All the technicians are like, yes, no one can prep. It's a struggle for all of you.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And it's a lot. I mean, it's really, if you go into a perfectly prepped apartment, home, whatever, it's like moving out. I tell people all the time, like, this is gonna suck. It's gonna feel like you're moving out of your house for a few weeks. And unfortunately, that's just kind of what you have to do. And so, yeah, prep it's so important, but oh my God, I pray I never have to do it to my own home, because walking people through the process and telling people what is needed is like, you can just see in their face, they're just dejected because it is, oh my God, it's so much work for them. And then, you throw in being elderly or having a medical condition or any reason why it might be a little bit harder. And that's just like climbing Mount Everest for some people.
It definitely is. And, but sometimes if the property isn't incredibly gross, as far as if their sanitation isn't really, really challenging, that can be another opportunity for one of the bedbug dogs where, say, you've done a number of treatments or you're just trying to begin treatment, and it's not a high level infestation. You can take that dog in and figure out some of the sources, or you can check the adjacent units to make sure that that it, this unit isn't necessarily ground zero. Sometimes that happens. Right. I think, we just went through that with a client where we were like, treat, think we have it under control. And then boom, they find a bed bug 60 days later. And we're like, let's just take one of the dogs in and figure this out and try to see if it's her purse or the kid's backpack or whatever it might be, and just use that one tool that we have available to us that, goodness, if we could just sniff out these bed bugs too, maybe we'd be better technicians.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what are working on that?
Sniffing out
yeah,
I can sniff out roaches pretty fucking easily, but sniffing out bed bugs, I'm still working on that skill. But the roaches, yes, ma'am, I've got you. I can sniff those out from a mile away. At this
keep
point. Working. So with bed bug detection, is there a certain situation that is best for dogs, or just anytime you think that there could be bed bugs, that's the right environment for the dogs? How do you guys ever do an inspection without the dogs, or it's like that's strictly their job?
So yes and yes and yes. So the dogs are ideal for low level infestations. If there are tons of bed bugs piled up, you don't need a dog. If you can find them physically or visually, you don't need the dog. And so we always do it because it's a canine detection team. We always try to perform a visual prior to the dog coming in. Because if there's a big pile of bed bugs and we didn't look, the dog might walk past them or avoid them because the smell would overwhelm them, or that maybe they wouldn't know where to alert because that odor is just permeating everywhere. A lot of people have the perception that a dog is going to walk in and be so stoked and excited because there's a high level infestation here. And that's not the reality with one of these sensitive dogs in their noses.
Interesting.
So it's definitely a team sport. But there's also traditionally a lot of these dogs, some of them are toy rewarded, but I would say the majority of them are food rewarded. Mm-hmm. I think when they started, first of all, hounds are frequently, very motivated by their stomach. And so it's an easy system to get down, and it speeds up the training process. So it's not an ideal situation when there is a lot of food debris on the floor, trash cans are overflowing, that the dog is not going to do his job. There's popcorn in the recliner. That's going to totally steal all of his attention and focus. And so there are some jobs where we're like, this is not going to work for the dog at all.
That makes sense.
As far as commercial jobs, that's usually a lot easier. I mean, the dogs might still crumb dive underneath a cubicle or something, but I find on average, we can check about 18,000 square foot an hour with one dog.
Wow.
So you can just truck straight through some office space, some cubicle space, large retail areas, warehouses, and clear large areas and really reduce the amount of treatment that needs to be done and provide a lot of peace of mind to people for sure.
That's incredible. That would take me 3 days to inspect that
Right?
much ground.
Yeah. It's good. Now, I mean, airflow can affect those inspections, if you have fans on somewhere or drafts, it might take that odor and send it. The dog might alert a little bit off of source. And so you always want to inspect visually as the handler and a professional, and then treat those adjacent areas too, because, say the dog alerts on chair 8 in the movie theater and you just treat, 6 through 10. Well, there might very well be some, a little further down, or, they're bugs and they walk. So you really need to take into account the airflow and what the distractions are to the dog, and make sure that you're using all the tools available as far as your eyes, your good flashlight, your common sense, thinking about the most common prevalent high volume seats, where the most people are, because that's really going to be usually where the bed bugs are.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I've heard some companies, and I have an issue with this, and I kind of had to fight my own management with doing, and I've worked for a couple companies that did it this way, where if a salesperson went into an apartment complex and found bed bugs in one bedroom but not the other, they would sell a treatment just treating that one bedroom. I think that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. Because if bed bugs are in anywhere in an apartment, I think they're everywhere in the apartment. Where do you stand on that? Do you think that's, I think with what you're saying, like with you can't just treat the one chair where you found them, right? Wouldn't you?
Right. Yeah. Because, really these people want the situation fixed. And so if you don't proactively treat the living room furniture or an adjacent bedroom, or think about kids that are bed jumping, all of those things, the laundry, then, they're not going to be happy in 5 or 6 weeks when they find a bed bug somewhere else and there was no product down. And they're going to be mad at you in spite of the fact that it's probably the human equation or the bug equation. And so, you just have to err on the side of caution and protect them through your knowledge and your thorough treatment, and protect yourself through, going the extra step for sure.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. I think it's the dumbest. I've worked for 2 places that did it that way. And anytime they sent me, I was like, no, we're doing a full unit. It just doesn't, they're hitchhikers. So, and they need you, they want your blood. So if you go from room to room to room, I don't know anybody that only spends time in their bedroom and never sits in their living room.
Right. Well, and then there's the equation that so many people get anxiety once they have a bed bug experience in their home, that even if they commit to sleeping in the same space and go back to their regular sleeping patterns, frequently they don't.
Yeah.
Or before you get there, and there's been a 3-day lapse between the first bed bug sighting and the time you got there, they've gone to the sofa and slept with their pillow there. And no one found a bed bug there, but I'll bet there are. And so, there's too many variables to cut corners.
Yeah, I feel like with bed bugs, that's just setting yourself up for failure. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. So do the dogs themselves have to be like certified, or what's the training that they go through? Do you train them yourself, or?
So the teams are able to attain certification, and that's kind of going the extra step, like showing that you're doing all of the things and you're trying to set the bar and make sure that your training is good and make sure your teams are good. Legally, you don't have to have any kind of certification to work. But there are certain states that will require, like Kentucky, for example, you cannot do a canine inspection in Kentucky unless you are licensed as an exterminator, or you have an exterminator that you are is present, that you're working under their license. So I'm sure there are more states that are like that also. There are also some states that require visual verification. Ohio is not one, so I can't speak a lot to that, where if your dog alerts, you have to try to find the bug, and you're required to try to fulfill that obligation. We try to, but it can be really challenging to try to find that bug. And so it can almost diminish a handler's confidence in their dog, because they have a hit and then they can't find the darn bug.
Find it.
If the hit makes sense and it's an area where there's a sighting or reported bites, then we roll with it. We'll still try to do a visual, but if the area does not make sense and it's a spare room that hasn't been used for 6 months, a year, then the dogs are not perfect. We know that the dogs are sometimes they can test you. Sometimes you can cue them without meaning to. Sometimes whatever you're feeling or thinking goes straight down the lead, and the sneaky little smart dogs can sure trick you sometimes. So trying to do visual is important. Talking to the clients, understanding the situation, and knowing whether things make sense, so that you don't say, the whole house needs treated, or we had an alert X, Y, and Z, and you don't want to stress those people out and cause extra expense. The first few dogs that we purchased from a training facility. So we would go, we'd give them a pile of money, and we would say, sure, we want a dog. They'd show you a couple of pictures of dogs, a brief description, and you'd say, all right, so we'll purchase Ollie, or we'll purchase Hank. And they would schedule a time when they think that dog would be finished with training. And then you would go to their training facility, spend a week or two, and get to know the dog and get to know the process. Maybe you already knew it. Maybe you did not. You might be completely green in this industry as far as dog handling, or even green in bed bugs. And so you go and you try to do this with a dog that has not really had very much experience. And then you take the dog home and try not to ruin it. After the first few experiences like that, and then seeing some people purchase dogs that maybe just had some environmental challenges, or just weren't the best candidates for the job, maybe not enough drive or whatever it might be, we started seeking out our own dogs and trying to find rescues when we could, which can be really hard, but purchasing from other facilities, whether it's a breeder or a facility that does other kinds of scent training for dogs and has good dogs that we could take and train ourselves. We found that if you're the right dog and you're very deliberate and consistent little training sessions, it's really easy to train a dog. They love it, and they have so much fun, and they like to have a job to do. And it was way easier than I thought it would be.
That's cool.
Doing it yourself, how long does it usually take from the time you get the dog to when they're in the field working for you?
A month or two.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
No, it's not bad, and kind of depends on if they have, especially when you already have a couple dogs in the field and you have established clients, then you can get this dog to recognize the odor and to learn its alert. Like ours usually scratch or sit down when they are when they hone down where the presence of the odor is or where source is. And once you have that kind of figured out, then you can just take them on the road with you to your inspections, to your with your regular teams, and wow, it goes really fast because they're like part of this little pack, and you already have all these great places to take them to work on environmentals and work on their search patterns and getting them to remember to check everything before they turn. And that's probably the hardest part is that search pattern and making sure that they're detailing things because you're trying to find a cluster of eggs or a couple of live bugs. And there's not a lot of odor there always. You could have a miss for sure, especially with a greener dog. You can miss bugs pretty easily.
Yeah. So what's the inspection process like to try to prevent that? Do you do, I think you said visual first, then you bring the dog in, right?
In a residential setting, visual first for sure. Commercial setting, not always possible.
Sure.
But it does help to look at the area. There have been times over the years where you've walked into a really nice office setting and you turn a chair around and you find 20 bed bugs and you're just not expecting it. So always knowing what you're getting into is really helpful. But then there are times when you have 3 floors of a building to check. And so you can't do a visual first. You're just trying to spot check for crumbs and trash cans and just trusting the dog. Doing blind hide training with your dogs where someone else is hiding samples of bed bugs at least once a week for you is really important so that you can watch your dog and know what your dog does and how their behavior changes before they actually alert or when they're on odor. Will really help you minimize the amount of times that you miss bugs. And also call on that dog when you feel like that they might be having a false positive or they might be alerting on something that's a non-target odor. Sure. That's really good. But it's never perfect. It's all, nothing black and white. It's a dog and a bug and humans. So
what could go wrong?
That's a good way to put it.
Right. Just try to have a really strong, ethically, you got to do the right thing for the client and for the person and for the dog. And then back up your findings. And so if there's, if you're inspecting a home, the dog does not alert, but it really, whether it sounds like it's bed bugs there or not, you just say, hey, we didn't find anything today. We're gonna back that up and we're gonna give you this time slot, this window, where if something does come up and you find a bug or your bites persist, we'll come back and we'll help you resolve it. We're not going to charge you an extra fee for that because we need to back up what we did. And then, then it takes some of the anxiety out of having a bad day or missing something.
Yeah, got it. So do you have a lot of situations where you're brought in just for inspection, or are you generally doing the inspection and doing the treatment? Do you ever have to give up control after the fact and let somebody else treat for you?
Yeah.
That's gotta suck sometimes.
Much. So we do a lot of work for exterminators because a lot of them don't have their own dogs. And so they'll either refer us out for, maybe some Airbnbs or maybe a hospital setting. We'll meet with their technician every month. We'll go through and inspect the set areas. And then we're like, see ya. And the technician does a treatment. And we bill for our portion, they bill for theirs. And it's just completely separate but integrated. Usually works really well. As long as the egos don't get in the way. Sometimes being a really well-trained, confident professional, you might have a technician that says, I want to find the bug, or I can find them. I'm great at finding them. I'll find them. And, just trust the dog. It does something different. The dog doesn't have a flashlight and a pair of reading glasses on. Yeah. He does something different. So just let him do that. And then, but you do something different also, because, you're really good at understanding the environment. And, it's, as long as the ego doesn't get in the way, it works out really well. There are a lot of homes where, if I talk to the individual and I say, if we have an alert or we find bugs, we do traditional chemicals and we do biopesticide applications also. But if you want a heat treatment or fumigation, I can refer you to a reputable company, and we do frequently.
Nice.
That's awesome.
yeah, there's grass is greener enough. There's business for all of us.
Yeah.
Especially when it
no
comes to
reason.
bed bugs. They're not going away anytime soon.
Yes.
Which
We can
that
all eat.
happened to you recently, didn't it? So kind of a bless your heart moment.
Oh, definitely. Bless your heart. And those were not the words that were coming out of my mouth that day.
I bet. So what happened that day?
We were inspecting this nursing home, and the conditions were not very good. It wasn't. I would not want my loved one to reside there, but and so we were finding some really big piles of bed bugs where the linens had not been properly changed and things were not as they should be. They were not following procedure or policy. And we were hired separately by the nursing home to come in, figure out what's going on here, and help them so that they don't keep chasing bed bugs all over the place. And the large exterminating company, their technician decided to come in that day because he wanted to see what the heck was going on. And this is his account. And he was being very territorial. And he did not ask anything about us, whether we're certified, whether we've been in business for a year or 100 years. He just started spouting off that I can find bed bugs better than a beagle. And he didn't have a good flashlight. He had to put on his readers. He was bragging about how his eyes can find bed bugs better than a beagle any day. And I just thought, you just sound dumb that you're not open-minded to all the tools that are available to you. Even if you don't believe in the dog's capacity, like perhaps you think that there's no such thing as a narcotics dog, or perhaps you think that there's no such thing as a cadaver dog, and you don't think dogs can do this.
Yeah.
Whatever, you're being very small-minded. So just, you didn't have to pay for the dog. Let the dog do its work. Yeah, okay, sorry, we found visual confirmation in 15 of the 50 rooms, but now you know where to start. But he made it all about his ego, and I bless his heart.
Bless his heart.
Bless his heart.
Well, bless your heart, cheap little fucker.
I don't know. I'd be stoked if I had an account like that where I was struggling and they were like, yeah, we brought in a dog that's going to sniff them out and tell you, like, that would make my job so much easier. I would be thrilled. I can't imagine like being upset that you just made my job 10 times easier.
Well, you don't have a big giant ego that you're worried about.
I just want to solve the problem and get rid of the bugs, and you're making that a little bit easier to do.
Exactly. My favorite part about it, it's a dog proven not to eat pest control people. I mean, I've been attacked so many times. That dog those dogs are used to us. I'd be like, can I pet it? This is therapy for me.
The one dog you feel comfortable around.
Yeah.
Right. It does really, like, it can have such a calming effect on it. Like, you have this office space or a healthcare facility. People are all stressed out. They keep saying, I can't afford to take these home. No one's doing anything about this. And they're pointing fingers. It's a little bit of a witch hunt because everyone thinks it's like the stinky guy that is causing this. And the dogs come through and they're like, hey, it's just this one little area, or hey, we figured it out. And it can really help everyone's anxiety and their challenges that they're dealing with. It could help HR and the facilities people, and it's so fast and I think affordable when it comes down to what we can figure out in a matter of hours.
I would love to hear so you do a lot of like the hoarding, the prepping, the cleanup. What's like the worst? Like, have you had one where you're like, I'm just sending the dogs and I'm not going in that unit? Like, what's the worst that you've had to deal with?
There's so many. This one contract, like we see so many situations where there was this elderly couple and they actually lived in a really nice condo, and the gentleman had been trying to self-treat for a really long time. I think they'd paid an exterminator at one point in time, but they couldn't prep. And so, the exterminator just took their money and didn't finish his job. And they had bed bugs for 4 years.
Oh my God.
4 years. And he had bought an Atrix backpack. He had a backpack vacuum like I did. He had bought a steamer, and he was trying and trying and trying. But they had so many bed bugs. So we would go in and we would prep and treat the same day. We'd go in with extra totes. We'd put all their stuff in totes, put new van strips inside, tape and seal them, put a label on the side. This is when it was sealed up. And vacuum, treat, wait a week or two, come back to the same thing. Keep going. And we thought we had it under control. And we had spent a lot of time with these people. And so the elderly, a lot of times as they get older, it becomes a real physical and mental challenge for them to bathe regularly. Mm-hmm. And so we'd go and we could tell that no one was using that bathtub or no one's using that shower. And it is what it is. I mean, sometimes they use wet wipes and things like that. Mm-hmm. But she had bed bugs in her shoes and in her slippers. And so we could actually see like fecal spotting on her toes and toenails where this has been going on for so long. And we thought we got it to almost under control. And she'd go, I'm still seeing some. It was finally, we'd sprayed the bathrooms, dried the curtains, put them back up, did all the things, did everything, and sprayed around the toilets and around the vanities. And they were in the hinges of the toilet seat where it was like one of those wooden looking toilet seats.
Sure.
They were in there. And she goes, I think they're in the toilet seat. And Morgan goes in, looks, oh my gosh. Because we hadn't sprayed the actual porcelain part of the...
Yeah, you wouldn't think you'd need to.
No. And she gets a video of all the stages of bed bugs and these screws and hinges on the toilet seat. Wow. Mind blown. Like it just when you think you've seen it all, you've not seen it all.
Yeah.
It's but you know what? Those people, they call me every once in a while and they still check in with us. And
you got rid of them eventually after that?
It took almost 4 months, mostly because that last stumbling block. We felt like in about 90 days we had it fixed. And then we were treating the walker. They were in the car. They were in the attached garage. We'd find some by the man door to the garage. I mean, they were just everywhere. And he kept trying to recycle. And so then like the newspapers would stack up and like, it just was like all of those human things that make things so much harder.
Right.
That's we did a big hoarding clean out last summer for an elderly woman with dementia, and there was black mold in the basement. There were bed bugs throughout the house. None of her kids, one child lived with her, adult child lived with her, but none of the other kids would come over and help because they were so worried about the bed bugs. They'd had bed bugs there for years. And so we seriously had to go in, and I think over the course of that job, we threw out a ton of stuff and just took it straight to the landfill. I think it ended up being close to 20,000 pounds of stuff that got taken to landfill because it was affected by mold or the bed bugs had ruined it. But then there was also, we purchased over 42 totes to put stuff in because they were hoarders, they were collectors. It's one thing to hoard papers, which they did, but then they are collectors of puppets or salt shakers or Avon bottles or whatever it might be. And so they won't part with those collections.
Yeah.
And so you have to save those. They're in boxes. You have to move them over. And we were there off and on for 2 months. And there were many weeks where we had a team of 3 there for multiple days. It was a really heavy duty job.
Wow.
And But the bugs ended up gone. And at the very end, we could run the dog through and check to make sure that the bugs were gone. Even though every time we go back, stuff would start piling up again. And you would know that, this is just going to be this is just their way of life. But at least the bugs are gone.
Right.
Yeah, at least we can solve one problem for them.
Yeah.
That's
Dang.
amazing.
I had one kind of like that toilet one where this gentleman had them, we think, over a year. And then, of course, by the time, I don't even think that he told management. I think somebody else finally was like, hey, I think there's something going on. And we originally were going to do chemical, but we got out there and he couldn't prep. And so I was trying, and I just finally at one point was like, this just has to be a heat job. There's just absolutely no way I'm getting rid of these. Because he wouldn't prep, so he was just putting all of his stuff onto his patio, and then the neighbors were finding them climbing down their exterior walls of the apartment complex. And we went in and we found bed bugs in the seal where the toilet sits on the pipe or whatever. And so
After
they
heat
were
treatment?
just no, I think that was before the heat treatment. I think it
Okay.
was sold by a salesperson, and then I went in. I was just told to go do a chemical treatment, and I got there and I was like, "There's no fucking way!" Like, I was finding pockets this big on his mattress. You could just see like the carpet was moving.
Right.
They were
And you had
in
other
the
jobs scheduled
toilet.
right after that. They're probably
yeah.
like, oh yeah, do this one from 10 to 12 and then go on to the next 5
and then
places.
go live your life. Yeah, bring them
Bugs
everywhere
all
else
over
you. Yeah. And then I'll never forget, I had 2 trainees with me that day. And because they were like, oh, bed bugs, cool. The trainees are going to meet you there. And I was like, great. And then we get in there and I had one holding up the mattress. And I was like, holy shit, you guys, I found a pocket like this big right on the end of the mattress. And so a trainee is holding it up and the mattress is like here and I'm behind the mattress. And the second trainee opens the window and this gust of wind comes in. And I'm like, whoa, homie. We don't do that. Like, close the window, please. I was just like, oh my God, they're blowing. Like, you've got just bed bugs flying at you. And he's like, well, I just wanted to, have fresh air. Like, wear a respirator. Close the fucking window right now. Ooh. But yeah, they were in that seal around his toilet even. They were just, and then I think it ended up needing quite a few heat treatments even. So I had gone a couple of times to try to do what I could in between, and then they were doing, I want to say he ended up with like 4 or 5 heat treatments, and then I was going unit to unit, and I don't even remember how many other units ended up with them, but yeah, again, they were like finding them climbing down the exterior, and then I think he tried to get rid of his mattress in between and was dragging it through the hallway without having bagged it it was just an absolute nightmare of a situation. I should have just left and gone home. It was not fun.
So inquiring minds want to know, did those 2 trainees stick with the job after seeing that?
One did for a while. The other one, I don't think so. I think the other one after that for a little while, but not very long. The other trainee only recently left. I've actually kept in touch with him, and he was okay, but that was supposed to be his route. And shortly thereafter, he was like, yeah, no, I'd like a route closer to home. And I was like, yeah, great. It's a good call on your part. So I ended up having to cover that route for a while, but yeah, it was enough for him to not work in that area anymore, but he did stay in the industry.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice. Almost gave me bed bugs though. Bastard.
If you would have one suggestion to maybe an owner operator or something that aspires to get into canine work, what would you maybe recommend for them, or do you have any advice or anything like that? Any training resource?
I would definitely. So most of the canine people are a little bit of a different breed. Where the exterminators, it's very competitive. Canine handlers, we get together with other competitors and colleagues, and we train together.
Oh, cool.
And so, because it's all about the dogs, right?
Yeah.
And it's all about every team that's better makes the industry better. So I would definitely have conversations with other canine companies, whether it's on the other side of the country or in your backyard, and get their real life experience on it. And then I'd realize it's a really big commitment, because these dogs are with you 24/7. Even if they're only at home, they're a huge commitment, and you might have a dog for 15 years. And
Right.
so that's a huge commitment. But it can be really rewarding, really fun. And, if you're an exterminator, you're stuck being the exterminator, but you really, really, really love dogs, and you have been really interested in dog training and their behaviors and things like that, then it might be a great fit, especially if there's in your market. You have a dog at home that drives you crazy, that's still young, that would really function well, having a task and having a job and a skill set, go for it. Those dogs are always improved from having a talent, a skill. There are even, when we go to some of these different canine academies and different training events, you'll run into people that will say, I'll be like, "What's your dog trained on?" And they'll be like, "The dog is trained on money, or the dog is trained on, I don't know, like a virus." And I'd be like, "Really? Do you do that?" And they're like, "Oh no, I just wanted to train my dog on something." And so they don't even take the dog out to do something on a daily basis or even a weekly. They just wanted to have something to train their dog on so they could do scent work, because it's so fun to watch the dogs work on odor and odor discriminate. It's so fun. Like, yeah, it's funny that if you have an interest in that, there are termite dogs, there are mold dogs, there are. Someone brought up the other day that there should be clothing moth dogs, but I don't know that that's ever going to be a thing. But there are all kinds of different purposes you can find for your canine if you have a high drive dog that's interested in doing something other than laying on the couch all day.
My dog has no other interest other than laying on the couch all day.
And, I think if they reached out to some of the other canine handlers or canine companies, most of the time, we've all spent a lot of time talking to people and letting them know what's all involved. You have to have a farm of bed bugs. You have to keep the farm of bed bugs clean and in good working condition. You have to deal with dogs that are food rewarded. So sometimes they're not really good at living in your house, because they're going to knock over the trash can and get in your cabinets, because there's such a high food drive in this dog. And so, we're always willing to have the conversation, because if you decide you want to have a bed bug dog, great. Then let's make sure it's the best thing for you and the dog and the company and everything. And
Right.
I've talked to so many people over the years, that some that have gone into business and some that have not, and we've let them work with us and follow us, and some have decided, no, it's not for me, and some have made a great business on their own. So yeah, anyone that needs to reach out to me, or anyone similar to me, I would suggest it. I don't think you should try to keep it secretive and think that, oh my gosh, they're going to be so mad that, I'm in the same market as they are. It's not like that. The grass is green, and there's plenty of work, and these dogs love to work. And, just the whole point is to try to be as good as you can possibly be.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. Do you want to go ahead and give yourself a nice little plug if there are customers or even companies listening that would work for you, with you? Where can they find you? How can they get a hold of you?
Absolutely. So we were called Buckeye Bedbug Detection, and in recent years we've changed it to Buckeye Bedbugs Plus, because we've diversified so much. We're in Ohio, but we have dog wheel travel. And we don't mind road trips. We had a handler that was down in Louisiana for a week and a half earlier this past year. So if you guys need help on a large job, or you have a really challenging situation, let us know. We would be happy to help, even if it's just a conversation and nothing comes to fruition. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm very actively involved in the business, although hopefully grooming these beautiful children of mine to take over someday. But we're very passionate about what we do, and we would be glad to help you in any manner possible.
Awesome. Well, it has been amazing chatting with you tonight. I really appreciate you coming on. You're our first guest.
Yes.
So hopefully it was a
you
good
so
experience.
much.
Yeah. It's
It
been
was
fascinating
awesome.
chatting.
It was awesome. My brother does a podcast every week, and so
cool.
I had to pick his brain. So I will tell you, my brother is a Bigfoot aficionado, and
Oh my God.
and he has this podcast called Wide Open, and he's Bigfoot Doc in West Virginia. So he had some great snippets of advice, but I'm so honored and privileged that you guys took the time and thought that I would be a good candidate to talk with you. And I hope we all continue to make each other better.
Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you. I'm going to check out his podcast. I'm super into.
Yeah, I was about to say that just sounds
all of
cool.
That.
Yeah. I ended up seeing you on, I think it was the Facebook group. I think it was the Pest Control Professionals or whatever. And I clicked your face and I saw you were in Ohio for one. And then I saw what you did and I'm like, that's cool. Add friend. And then it was like right in the beginning of us doing the Pestrogen group. So I'm like, invite. So then I think I messaged you after you commented something super funny and I like fangirled for a second, like, oh my God, you're so cool. And then me and Jerusha were talking, we're like, oh my gosh, that's such a good topic to talk about. I learned so much just now.
Yeah,
that is so
seriously
cool.
You know,
my dog's a lazy bum, otherwise I'd go train my own dog to do some detecting for me.
We all have that one dog who's just a squatter, right? That does not earn their own.
Yes.
I can't believe when I went back through and looked at some of the comments on some of the different posts, how many different canine handlers and bedbug specialists you guys have in that group already. I think it's outstanding. And it is such a great industry and a great role for females to be in, because you can make a living and you can help people and you can work with animals. And it is the best of all of the good things.
It sounds like it. I need to change my career.
Yeah, right. And maybe I'll work through my fear of dogs. Maybe I just need to come spend a week with you and you can help me get over my fear of getting my face eaten off.
You know, it's all amazing until, you know, you get out of a really important new job and your business partner rolls in poop or something like that. And so Jenny, maybe
and then gets in the truck afterwards with you.
Yeah. Jenny, you might be on the right path. It's okay.
Yeah, you're probably fine.
That's great. Oh, well, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah,
thanks, ladies. Have a great evening.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for checking out Pestrogen Podcast. What an amazing episode. Thank you so much. So I just wanted to add a few notes here while we do our doggy slideshow. Stay tuned, as you heard, for Tales from the Crawl Space coming back from their hiatus. We absolutely love them. So definitely check them out. Beauties and Beasties, we were on a recent episode. If you haven't heard it, go find it right now because it was amazing. I'm becoming a big fan of theirs as well. I've started re-listening to everything they've done since the very beginning, and it's been a lot of fun. Our buddy as well, Sean Mueller, I consider him our brother in podcasts because we started around the same time. Pest Perspectives, give him a listen. Until next time, see you next week.